I really love Japanese. I love Japanese so much that I have purchased hundreds of Japanese from Zero books because I want every revision, I want every color change, every shift in the title position. I want every single one. That's how much I love Japanese from Zero. Today's going to be good. I made some really good things today. Very excited for them myself. Hello and welcome to Japanese from Zero, Course 2, Lesson 5. We're going to do a short particle review that is very important before we move on to the next video. The next video is going to be called Particle Shuffle, and that's where we're going to take 4 words, only 4 words, and then mix them up with a variety of particles and make tons of different sentences just by changing the particle. But in order to do that, you do need to understand how particles work. So I really hope you watched this video first. At this lesson, we do need to know tachitsuke, though I have to keep reminding you of that, but I think you already know. So let's go ahead and just one by one look at what particles we've learned through Course 1 or Book 1, depending on what you're doing. Same material through Course 2 so far. So the first thing we learned was ka. When a phrase ends with ka, it makes it a question. It's very simple, like nan desu ka? What is it? Ikimasu ka? Are you going? Kyou wa getsuyobi desu ka? Is today Monday? Random things like that. Topic marker wa. We know that when a wa is in a sentence, the thing directly before the wa is the topic of the sentence, and everything after the wa is a question or description of the topic. For example, watashi wa George desu. I, and the topic, am George, the description. Anata wa Nihonjin desu ka? You are the topic. The question is, are you Japanese? So everything revolves around this wa. And when your Japanese gets more advanced and when you're doing bigger sentences, this rule does not change. The wa will always note the topic and everything after it, like literally everything after it, is a question or description of that topic. Now later on, when you're doing much bigger sentences, you'll have sentences contained within sentences. For example, you can have a quote where George said, I like Japan. Now you've got I like Japan as the quote and George said, but the rules don't change. Everything in the quoted or encapsulated sentences are still going to be following rules with some minor changes. We'll learn that in, I think that is Course 3 when this background turns to green. All right, and then we learned subject marker ga. The first usage of this we used with nani nani, something, right? Maru maru, if you remember. Ga suki desu, I like something. And the way we taught it was that if you are the topic, of course you're going to say watashi wa, and the thing that you like is marked with ga. So watashi wa inu ga suki desu. I like dogs. Watashi wa Nihongo ga daisuki desu. I love Japanese language. And remember that daisuki doesn't really mean love. It means like a lot. But in English, we love to say love, but we don't really mean love. We mean like a lot. We learned this extremely important no possession marker. So no, it is used when you have a word that is a noun, a pronoun, for example, a pronoun like watashi, anata, kare, kanojo. And if you add no to it, it makes it into the possessive form of that. My, watashi no, yours, anata no, his, kare no, hers, kanojo no. It's also just like the English apostrophe S. So if it comes after a name, George no cola desu. George's cola. This is George's cola. George no iPhone desu. George's iPhone. All right. And yeah, that was it. We also learned what to does. To is and. Very simple. The big difference between this to and American and, or English and, is that this is used between every item in the list. So if I want to say why I didn't throw away this fork from lunch, I don't know. But if I want to say, let's see, we got Evie's playing another I love when Eevee comes on. I swear I love Eevees. Still doing Pokemon Go. Alright, so we've got フォークとハサミとEevee です。See? 私は I イービーとハサミとフォークがあります。I don't think that sentence has ever been said in the history of the planet. I have a fork, scissors, and an Eevee. Now you've heard it for the very first time ever uttered on this planet. Alright? Then we learned mo. Now, mo really just means to or also, but I like to call it the inclusion marker because it's including whatever is directly before it. So, for example, I could say, フォークがあります。I have a fork. ハサミもあります。I also have scissors. イービーもいます。I also have Eevee. Notice. Did you see what I just did? It was kind of like a sleight of hand thing. I changed the verb. It was ハサミがあります。And whatever the other thing was, fォークがあります。Because these are dead. They're not alive, right? Now, it's awkward because Eevee, I said います. Even though it's not alive, in the game it is alive. So I referred to it as います. If I was talking about the toy Eevee, I would have said イビのおもちゃ. A toy Eevee, right? イビのおもちゃがあります. That was a good example. I like that. I'm going to use that in the future. All right, let's move on. We learned ni. We learned two versions of ni. We learned the time marker and the location marker. Let's do time first. I'm going to go at 3 o'clock. 3時に行きます. I'm going to go in January. 1月に行きます. Okay, so you notice that the ni comes after the time. Particles always follow the thing that they are attached to. Okay, and it's used for place. Well, I'm going to go to Japan. 日本に行きます. I went to China. 中国に行きました. And we can combine, of course, all of these can be put into a large sentence, but let's just, a very common one is, at a certain time, I'm going to go to a certain place. So let's say, I'm going to go to Japan at 4 o'clock. No, let's make it Tuesday. On Tuesday, I'm going to Japan. 火曜日に日本に行きます. Oh, you know what? I forgot one of our particles because I could have also said 日本へ written with the he, right? へ, but it's read as へ. 日本へ行きます means I'm going to Japan. It really means I'm going towards Japan. You use へ when you're talking about going towards a large area or towards the right, towards the left, towards a direction. But we also learned that Japanese mix these up quite often. Later, we learned that ni can be used to say a spot where something might be. So, for example, I could say, フォークは私の手にあります. Okay? The fork is in my hand. 手にあります. But I could never, ever say 手へあります because へ has to have a direction, a motion has to be happening. There is no motion when something is just sitting somewhere. All right. Then we learned our first double particle. It's not really a double particle, it's just a double syllable particle. We do learn that you can sometimes have a double particle. We'll talk about that in a second. But kara means it's put after the beginning time or the beginning location when you're getting ready to go somewhere. Okay, so for example, for time, I would say from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock would be 1時から3時です. 1時から3時です. If I want to say from Tokyo, I would say 東京から. I came from Tokyo. 東京から来ました. When you're in Japan, if you want to say I'm from America, you just say I literally forgot how to say America for a second, but it's really easy. It's America. But did you know that there's another way to say America? Let's do a little bit of a fun thing. The kanji for America, when it's written in native Japanese, it's beikoku. Beikoku. And bei means rice. Isn't that weird that we typically in the West associate Asia and Japan with rice dishes, but America is called Beikoku, which means the rice country. Now, this same word in China is written Meguo, and Meguo is written with beautiful country. It doesn't mean that they thought it was beautiful. They just chose the closest thing that sounded like America. Meguo. So that's what they did. All right. Didn't mean to do a Chinese lesson, but it's kind of interesting. When you learn multiple languages, you start seeing these interesting patterns. And we learned made. So made is kind of like the opposite of kara. Kara starts a time or a location, and made is the final destination marker or the end time marker. So you can say, Tokyo made ikimashita. I went as far as Tokyo. Or, ichiji made, until 1 o'clock. So we can also combine them together to say, today's live stream is from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. 今日のライブストリームは8時から9時までです。And we learned, most recently, we learned this. We learned the with particle. Anything that is in front of this is the thing that you were doing an action with. Okay? For example, I ate with a friend. 友達と食べました. Okay? There's one more particle that I just realized that we are doing in this lesson, but it doesn't make sense as a review. Okay? But it would be de. Event location marker. So I ate at a restaurant. レストランで食べました. And one more that we don't have in here, my list is incomplete, is the object marker wo. It's written W-O-O. You guys know what it is. It won't be on the screen because I'm too lazy to edit the video. But wo, when it's said like that, it feels awkward to me, but it's just o when you say it. It marks the object in a sentence. For example, the thing that you are eating is marked with o. The thing that you are drinking is marked with o. So I will eat pizza. Pizza o tabemasu. I drank cola. Cola o nomimashita. All right, that's a good review of all that we've learned. Now, let's go ahead and have a little bit of fun. We're going to put this in, it's not really a story, it's just 3 sentences together that have connecting themes. And we're going to use every particle except for the ones that I forgot to put in that list. Here we go. I'm going to read it to you, and as I'm reading it to you, try to see if you can translate it. The sentences, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, but they're long. 田中さんの友達は日本が大好きです。でも中国と韓国も好きです。来年の夏に友達と日本から韓国に行きます。あなたはどこまで行きますか? Think about it just for a second, and then we'll break it down. All right. So when we look at this first sentence, every sentence is ending here with this little circly thing, which is the Japanese period, if we remember. So, 田中さんの友達は日本が大好きです. If you remember the rules of wa, everything before the wa is the topic, or part of the topic, for the most part. Okay. So, 田中さんの友達は, that's the person that we're going to talk about. Tanaka's friend. What about him? What's the description of this guy? 日本が大好きです. He really likes Japan. Okay? Demo, but, now notice, this demo is in the beginning of the sentence. Theoretically, we could have had a wa following that. It wouldn't mean that demo was part of the topic. That's why I say it's most often part of the topic. It's always going to be the topic before the wa, but there's other things like you could say like ashita, tomorrow. Tomorrow wouldn't be the topic unless it was directly in front of it. All right? So, でも中国と but 中国と韓国も好きです. But he also likes China and Korea. Alright? 来年の夏に友達と日本から韓国に行きます。来年の夏に友達と日本から韓国に行きます。来年の夏に means next summer or summer of next year. And we are marking the time, the complete time is 来年の夏。友達と with a friend 日本から韓国に from Japan to Korea. We don't have to say まで here. We don't. It's optional in this particular sentence because 韓国 is where they're going. It's totally natural to say 韓国に行きます. Alright? So 日本から韓国に行きます. So we don't have a topic in this sentence, if you'll notice that. We're just saying next summer, with a friend from Japan to Korea will go. Who will go? If you remember back in the basic sentence structure that we taught in course 1, in Japanese, a topic is introduced like a tennis serve, right? You serve the topic and you don't keep serving, right? You keep that, the ball becomes the topic, right? You serve it once and then you're hitting the same thing back and forth. You don't have to restate the topic. And unlike English, we don't have to say he, she, they. We don't have to keep remembering what we were talking about. We know that the topic is the last thing that was marked with wa. And that last thing is Tanaka-san no tomodachi. So his friend, right? We know that he likes Japan. We know that he also likes China and he also likes Korea. And that next year in the summer with a friend, he is going to go from Japan to Korea. So it's a little bit complicated if you think about it. It's the friend of Tanaka's friend. Because we've already defined the person doing this thing as Tanaka-san no tomodachi. I didn't even realize that I did that. But really what we're saying is, watch this. We're saying Tanaka-san no tomodachi no tomodachi. Tanaka's friend's friend. Tanaka-san no tomodachi no tomodachi. That's who's going to Korea from Japan. And then, just so I could get ka and made in there, I asked you a question. I didn't mean to hit the mic there. Anata wa doko made ikimasu ka? Up until where will you go? Now, in English, we would just say, until where will you go, or where will you go to? And what that means is, how far will you go? All right. There you have it. That was our mini review. Now, please, without delay, go watch the next video because everything we just covered in the review here for particles is absolutely needed to understand what's going to happen in the video titled Particle Shuffle, one of what I feel is the most amazing things I've ever come up with in the books. And in this revised edition of book 2, I think there used to only be maybe 5 examples. I made 12 examples in the shuffle. And in this video, I added a bonus one because I thought it would be sweet to teach this special sentence that we've never done before. So check it out in lesson 5 continued. See you then.